working to connect a region of over 600 cultural bridges between our lands.
Good evening, I'm Alma Angeles. You're watching ASEAN in Focus on today's program. Smoke from Canadian wildfire shrouded New York in a record-breaking apocalyptic smog as cities along the U.S. East Coast issued air pollution warnings and thousands evacuated their homes in Canada. And we bring you a concerning report on our global oceans. According to the Copernicus Climate Change Service, last month marked the warmest May for our oceans since records began in the 19th century. And PHIVOLCS has just raised the alert level for Mayon volcano. The volcano status has been upgraded from alert level 2, which indicates increasing unrest, to level 3, indicating an increased tendency towards a hazardous eruption. New York City experienced an unusual phenomenon today as a plume of smoke from Canadian wildfires rapidly spread across the skies, casting a dark shadow over the city. The air quality index soared past 400, entering the hazardous range, and this marks the highest recorded level since the Environmental Protection Agency began tracking air quality measurements back in 1999. Let's listen in.
You can see Statue of Liberty today, and usually it's bright and clear. It's generated a kind of a cough all day long. I quit smoking 50 years ago, but it's kind of a cough that I would have when I was smoked.
Not like this.
I've been here for like 40 years and I haven't seen anything like this.
Yeah. I've never seen it this cloudy, you know.
The air quality is just terrible.
I smell kind of like someone's like doing barbecue or like all the time, and then my eyes got watery and like itchy all the time yesterday. So the whole evening was for me is kind of like smoking, like smelling smoking, and then my eyes are itchy. I think we're gonna leave after lunch. So it's kind of like ruining our plans because I was like trying to like get all the attractions in my like birthday because we're leaving tomorrow. Yeah, so it's kind of like, you know, bummer. Yeah. And it's annoying. I'm trying to like get lots of pictures as much as I can, but as you can see, when I took pictures, I cannot see like the building. I can't even see like the bridge like in the picture. So.
As the day progressed, Midtown Manhattan found itself engulfed in a deep hazy orange haze, while smoky clouds obstructed visibility throughout the 5 boroughs and the surrounding region. Concerned about the deteriorating air quality, commuters took precautions by wearing masks typically used during the COVID-19 pandemic while navigating the streets. Schools took to measures to protect children by keeping them indoors during recess, and some educational institutions even closed their doors for the day. Government officials issued warnings advising residents to refrain from going outside unless absolutely necessary. As of today, the city has taken the top spot as the world's most polluted city, surpassing all others in terms of poor air quality. In fact, New York has reached code purple, which indicates extremely unhealthy levels for the general population. Let's listen in.
This is a very serious, dangerous situation. The situation worsened considerably, and certainly we're feeling those effects today. As we all know, the normal air quality index, safe, normal, is 50. Parts of our state have seen a level of over 400 in the last 24 hours. So our message right now is going to be reiterated multiple times because it is simply stay indoors. Outdoors is dangerous in just about every part of our state. Not just vulnerable communities, but literally everyone. My first week as governor, almost 2 years ago, we had 2 hurricanes. We had record snow events in Western New York, my hometown, and now we're seeing something that is absolutely unprecedented. So with climate change, we have to be prepared for all conditions, especially what we're experiencing now.
Meanwhile, in a grave assessment, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau declared that the nation is grappling with the most severe wildfire season we've ever witnessed across the entire country. Here's more.
Year after year, with climate change, we're seeing more and more intense wildfires, and in places where they don't normally happen. That's why we've invested to train more community-based firefighters across the country. But our modeling shows that this may be an especially severe wildfire season throughout the summer. This is a scary time for a lot of people, not just in Alberta, but right across the country, including in the Atlantic, the North, and Quebec, too.
Wildfires that continue to wreak havoc across Canada, particularly in Quebec. The province, grappling with the overwhelming scale of the blazes, is eagerly anticipating the arrival of international reinforcements to bolster its firefighting efforts. The extent of the destruction is staggering, with approximately 3.8 million hectares of land already consumed by the flames. The impact on communities is profound, as over 20,000 individuals remain displaced. As the crisis deepens, authorities in Quebec have issued evacuation orders for thousands more residents. In a video footage captured by the British Columbia Wildfire Service, we get a glimpse of the devastating Donny Creek wildfire as it tears through the northeastern corner of British Columbia. Now, this region is characterized by C2 fuels, which are commonly found in the vast boreal forests of Canada. Ignition specialist Mike Morrow and ignition trainee Morgan Bogan sheds light on the volatile nature of these fuels and the immense challenges they present to the brave firefighters. Take a look.
We are standing in the unburned side of the fire up here in Donny Creek. Just going to have a discussion with you about the fuels and why we had to use the tactic of aerial ignitions. Part of the reason this fire got so big is the fact that we are in the black spruce and we're within the parameters of the spring dip, which is a term we use where the snow has left and the vegetation has not woke up yet and started to drop moisture. So the vegetation itself is very dry at that point and very, very flammable. Bud break occurs is when spring dip is just finishing. Between the flammability of the black spruce and the fact that it has branches right down to the ground, in this fuel type, it goes from being just smoldering ground fire to full tree consumption in a matter of minutes. It's extremely volatile, very challenging to work in. As far as spotting distances, we've seen spotting up to 1 kilometer already on this fire, where it is throwing embers and they are starting 1 kilometer ahead of the main body of the fire.
They have a specialist trainee as well as an ignition specialist trainee. So this fuel type is very challenging for the crews and it is very dangerous. The rates of spread that we were seeing was about 20 meters a minute. That in this terrain, that is faster than a lot of the crews can move. There's a bunch of moss here, so the ground is very spongy. It's hard to walk through. You can see how dense this stand is. You can hardly see 10 meters into it. So crews can't move quickly through here.
And news coming in from the country. The Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, or PHIVOLCS, has just raised the alert level for Mayon volcano. The volcano status has been upgraded from alert level 2, which indicates increasing unrest, to level 3 now, indicating an increased tendency towards a hazardous eruption. According to PHIVOLCS, the continuous increase in rockfall events at Mayon volcano prompted this heightened alert. The growing summit dome of the volcano has been experiencing repeated collapses, leading to a greater number and volume of rockfall events since June 5, when the alert status was raised to level 2. PHIVOLCS has been closely monitoring the situation and recorded a total of 267 rockfall events and 2 volcanic earthquakes from June 5 to the 8th. This is a significant increase compared to the 54 rockfall events recorded from June 1 to June 4. Now, these rockfall rockfall events lasting from 1 to 3 minutes have transported lava debris within a kilometer range of the southern upper slopes. The seismic record indicates a rise in the rate of dome growth. In addition, PHIVOX observed 3 pyroclastic density current events in the Bonga and Basud gullies. Now, these PDCs lasting for 4 to 5 minutes occurred at 6:18 a.m., 9:53 a.m., and 11 a.m. However, it's important to note that sulfur dioxide emissions remain at the baseline level, according to PHIVOX. The overall monitoring parameters suggest that there is ongoing extrusion of shallow degassed magma, although the rate is increasing slowly. Now, under alert level 3, Mayon volcano is now exhibiting a magmatic eruption of a summit lava dome. There is an increased likelihood of lava flows and hazardous pyroclastic density currents affecting the upper to middle slopes of the volcano. Additionally, there's a potential for explosive activity within the coming weeks or days. And also tonight, we bring you a concerning report on our global oceans. According to the Copernicus Climate Change Service, last month marked the warmest May for our oceans since records began in the 19th century. The data collected by C3s reveals that sea temperatures at a depth of about 10 meters were 1/4 degree Celsius higher than the average from 1991 to 2020. This ongoing warming trend has contributed to a 0.6 degree Celsius increase in the surface waters of the oceans over the past 4 decades. April also witnessed a new heat record, further highlighting the intensity of the situation. Looking ahead, there are concerns of further temperature increases in the coming months, especially with the emergence of the El Niño signal in the equatorial Pacific. Now, this natural shift in ocean winds can intensify global warming. It's important also to note that the surface temperature of the Earth, both over water and land, tied as the second hottest May on record, according to C3s. Now, these findings are based on comprehensive computer-generated models that incorporate billions of measurements from various sources worldwide, including satellites, ships, aircraft, and weather stations. Our oceans, which cover 70% of the Earth's surface, play a vital role in maintaining the habitability of our planet. However, human activities, particularly the burning of fossil fuels, continue to drive global warming, presenting significant challenges. The average surface temperature of the planet has already risen by 1.2 degrees Celsius compared to pre-industrial levels, resulting in devastating climate impacts worldwide. And we bring you alarming statistics concerning global food safety. According to the World Health Organization and the Food and Agriculture Organization, an astonishing 1.6 million people worldwide fall ill each day due to consuming contaminated food. Tragically, this results in the loss of 420,000 lives every year. Now, these staggering numbers were released on Tuesday ahead of World Food Safety Day, observed on the 7th of June. Dominic Burgeon, the director of the FAO's office in Geneva, shared his insights on this critical issue.
We calculated on average 340 children under 5 die as a result of eating contaminated food. And contamination can come from different sources. It can be bacteria, it can be viruses, parasites, and chemicals. And the diseases can go from anything from diarrhea to cancers. Immediate, short-term, but also longer-term exposure to these compounds.
When food is scarce, it's clear that people will make all possible efforts to find food and to provide food to their family. And we see that there is definitely a direct correlation between situation of food scarcity and increased threats to food safety. And I mean, Francesco refers to 1.6 million people a day afflicted by foodborne illnesses. This makes 600 million people a year, with 420,000 people dying as a result. I mean, when we also realized that Basically, food safety is important to food security. How can you be food secure if you do not have access to safe food?
As if this wasn't concerning enough, the grim reality is that over 345 million people are currently grappling with high levels of food insecurity in 2023. This means that an increasing number of individuals face the distressing choice between going hungry or consuming unsafe food. Both the World Health Organization and the Food and Agriculture Organization are actively engaged in offering scientific expertise to assist countries in developing robust food standards. Recognizing the importance of enhancing food safety measures globally, these organizations have taken a proactive step by establishing a trust fund. This fund aims to support low and middle income countries in implementing effective food control systems, strengthening laboratory capacities, and ultimately safeguarding the health of consumers. And we have concerning developments out of Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has made a grave accusation against Russia, stating that they have caused what he calls the largest man-made environmental disaster in Europe in decades. The incident occurred on Tuesday when a major dam and power station in southern Ukraine were destroyed.
I address everyone in the world for whom life is a value. Today, the Russian occupiers have committed the biggest crime of ecocide on the Ukrainian land, not only during this war, but in decades. In fact, the destroyed Kakhovka reservoir is one of the largest in Ukraine. It holds 18 billion cubic meters of water. All the structures of the Kakhovka hydroelectric power plant and its dam were located in the occupied territory, under the full control of the Russian occupiers.
However, it's important to note also that the Kremlin has swiftly denied these claims. Instead, they have turned the blame on Ukrainian forces.
Сейчас можно констатировать, что единственной стороной, которая никогда не была заинтересована в реанимировании трубопровода, это, безусловно, киевский режим. Таким образом, киевский режим не просто устранил физическую возможность для поставок аммиака на мировые рынки. Нанесен удар по общим усилиям по борьбе с угрозами голода и по оказанию помощи нуждающимся странам Азии, Африки, Латинской Америки, а также
The United Nations is now sounding the alarm, warning this incident could potentially trigger an environmental disaster with dire humanitarian consequences for hundreds of thousands of people. According to the UN's humanitarian agency, OCHA, emergency response efforts are already underway to provide urgent assistance to over 16,000 individuals affected by the dam's destruction. One of the immediate priorities is to ensure a stable supply of clean water to the affected population. Meanwhile, the U.S. has expressed deep concern, issuing a warning that there is a high likelihood of many fatalities as a result of this devastating event. The International Atomic Energy Agency, the UN's nuclear watchdog, has also weighed in on the matter.
The Nova Kakhovka dam was severely damaged, leading to significant reduction in the level of the reservoir used to supply cooling water to the ZNPP.
The safety and stability of the nuclear power plant, as well as the well-being of the affected population, are at stake.
Absence of cooling water in the essential water systems for an extended period of time would cause fuel melt and inoperability of the emergency diesel generators. However, our current assessment is that there is no immediate risk to the safety of the plant.
As authorities and humanitarian organizations scramble to respond to this developing crisis, the priority remains ensuring the safety and security of the civilians in harm's way.
The main line of cooling water is fed from the reservoir and pumped up through channels near the thermal power plant to the site. It is estimated that the water through this route should last for a few days. There are a number of alternative sources of water. A main one is the large cooling pond next to the site that by design is kept above the height of the reservoir. As the reactors have been shut down for many months, it is estimated that this pond will be sufficient to provide water for cooling for some months. The agency will confirm this very shortly. It is therefore vital that this cooling pond remains intact. Nothing must be done to potentially undermine its integrity. I call on all sides to ensure nothing is done to undermine that. The consequences may be grave.
And today, the World Bank released its Global Economic Prospects Report, highlighting significant concerns about the global economy. According to the report, global growth has experienced a substantial slowdown, and the risk of financial stress in emerging market and developing economies, known as EMDEs, is escalating due to elevated global interest rates.
Global growth is slowing sharply in a synchronized fashion. This year, 70% of countries around the world will see weaker growth relative to last year. We are expecting global growth to go down to 2% this year. It was 3% last year. For developing economies, weak growth translates into, of course, weaker income prospects. By the end of 2024, 30% of emerging market developing economies will have per capita income still lower than what they had prior to the pandemic in 2019. Many of these economies won't see a catch up in terms of their income with the advanced economy income levels. That situation has been becoming worse in terms of developing economies' ability to pay back debt. Interest rates have increased dramatically, and because of course, the banking stress, financing conditions get even tighter at the global level. So from 2000 to 2019, we saw only 19 sovereigns defaulted. Since 2020, we have already seen 14 countries defaulting. So we have a real debt crisis in our hands.
In addition to assessing global growth prospects, the World Bank report also sheds light on the fiscal policy challenges faced by low-income economies. These countries find themselves in dire straits as a result of various factors.
Rising interest rates has significant implications for emerging market developing economies, especially those with weaker credit ratings and, of course, larger vulnerabilities. We downgraded our forecast in emerging market developing economies with larger vulnerabilities. In an environment you have weak growth and tighter financial conditions, those economies are affected more as interest rate hikes takes place. Fiscal challenges in low-income countries are formidable, and they are chronic in the sense that whether you look at the revenue side, whether you look at the expenditure side, you have persistent challenges. On the revenue side, revenues account for only 20% of GDP, and that has been the case over the past decade. These economies need to expand the revenue base. There are growing spending pressures. They need to allocate more for education. They need to allocate more for health to make progress in development objectives. And they are unable to do that because of narrow fiscal space. And of course, these fiscal challenges translate into weaker fiscal positions, and they translate into larger debt problems.
As my usual habit, I'd like to end the day on a positive note. Let's encourage and build each other up so that no one is left behind. And that's it for tonight's broadcast. I'm Alma Angela. Stay in the news because we live in extraordinary times. Good night.